Hey everybody, Dr. Misek here again. Today we're going to go through a little presentation about our immunity and where it comes from. There's a lot of myths and misconceptions about our immune system. So I wanted to take a few minutes and go over where it actually is in the body, what makes it up, and how it actually responds to different foreign invaders like bacteria and viruses. So let's go ahead and start about this program on immunity. Where does it come from? Well, to understand the role of chiropractic on immunity, we must understand the purpose and function of the spine. This is where a lot of people get confused because we think that immunity and our immune system is our whole body. And although there's many components to the immune system, the only way the immune system works and it's controlled is through the action of the nervous system. And that's where chiropractic comes in, because chiropractors are intimately related and treat the structure and function of the spine and how it affects the underlying nervous system, particularly the spinal nerve roots, the spinal cord, and the brain. So to understand the chiropractic portion of it, we got to understand the function of the spine. So what we find is that the best science available today shows that the spine is essentially the motor for the brain. The brain, I look at the brain as kind of being the supercomputer of the body. Everything goes through the brain, everything is processed through the brain, and then all the communication network is the spinal cord and the nerve roots. And within the spine itself, that's the motor for the brain. So what does that mean? Well, the only way that our brain gets the energy and feedback that it needs to continue to function is through the movement of the spine. So if the spine is not in proper alignment, we're not going to have proper movement. And in order to have the right information to all the muscles and organs and tissues, we've got to have the proper movement of the spine, i.e., we've got to be able to communicate that message from our brain down through the spinal cord, through the nerve roots to the associated tissues and organs and muscles to be correct. And the only way we can do that is we need to have a spinal system, a vertebral system that is free of interference. So when we look at the immune system, we have many components to the immune system. We've obviously all had a sore throat or maybe even a sinus infection. So our tonsils become a very first line part of our immune system. That the immune system there is part of the lymphatic system, as well as the adenoids. And unfortunately, in allopathic care, if we have patients, young people that have more of a chronic tendency to get infections in their tonsils and adenoids, well, they just take them out and just take care of the underlying tissue that's being infected and irritated, and that'll take care of the problem. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't. It may take care of the inflammation and infections in those areas, but our body really is still responding to those infections in other lymphatic tissues as well. So we put a lot of strain and stress on other lymphatic tissues in our body. Other parts of our immune system can be encompasses the thymus gland, and then we also obviously have our lymphatic tissue, as well as the spleen and even the bone marrow. A lot of the white blood cells are created not only in the bone marrow but in the lymphatic tissue. So those are important structures in our body and components of our immune system. Another thing is our gut. Our gut is actually probably the place where 70% of our immune system comes from. So we got to really be careful about what we're putting in our mouth and what interacts with our gut lining as well. And we'll talk about that later on, and maybe even in another program altogether. So like I said earlier, our immunity is actually like a supercomputer. It's our body is connected to every tissue, cell, and organ of the body, and it's controlled through the communication network of our brain, our spinal cord, and our nerve roots. So ultimately, our immunity is an orchestrated attempt of our body to keep us as healthy as possible. So it's really extremely sophisticated, and it's been estimated that it's the best computer technology available today that we have in our body to help keep us safe and from catching infections, flus, viruses, and the sort. So, reiterating, our immunity is directed by our nervous system. So, again, the brain is the supercomputer to the rest of the body, to all of its tissues, cells, and organs. And all those organs must work in harmony to create the best and strongest immunity that we have. So this is just really important to recognize, and how chiropractic plays a wonderful role in that is to keep that immunity working at the highest levels by making sure that the spine is and the nervous system is void of any interference, so the body can heal itself and take care of itself on its own. So what does a chiropractic adjustment do? Well, in short, a chiropractic adjustment improves the function of the brain. Now, I know a lot of people come to the chiropractor because they're having, lower back symptoms or headaches or neck pain, and that's great. And that's just an outward sign that there's something wrong. There's an imbalance in the nervous system. There's something wrong with the structure of the spine that's causing the nerve to be irritated. So the brain picks up on that, and it tells us that something's wrong in the form of a symptom. But what a chiropractic adjustment does is it helps remove that interference in that nervous system caused by that vertebral misalignment. And in chiropractic, we call that a subluxation. So that's really what a chiropractic adjustment does. By improving that function of the structure of the spine, we improve the function of the nervous system, which ultimately allows that brain to process all the messages that it's coming in, to making sure that our body is healthy and symptom-free, and our immune system is functioning at a very high level. So I just love this slide here because it really talks about the power of an adjustment. So, we could spend a lot of time on this slide, but it really gets down into the nuts and bolts of what a spinal misalignment or subluxation actually does and how it affects the rest of the body. So when we have a spinal misalignment, and this may be a spinal misalignment that's not even causing you any kind of pain or dysfunction or irritation or symptoms. So a lot of times these spinal misalignments or subluxations occur, and they're fairly silent in nature. But because of what they will do and how they cause an impact on the underlying nervous system, and ultimately how the brain processes these nerve irritations, our bodies can go through a whole host of problems that you may not be even aware of, that you're experiencing symptoms as a result of a misalignment on the spine. So on the right hand side of this graphic, we have what that term subluxation is. That's that misalignment of the spine. So that actually decreases the normal movement within the spine. By doing that impacts that underlying nervous system, particularly the nerve root. That's the nerve that's coming from the spinal cord out to the tissues and cells and organs, and that ultimately impacts that spinal cord, which then goes up into the brain. So on the left side of this slide, we've got all the parts of the brain that are affected when we have a misalignment of the spine, and how that changes the tone of muscles and the nervous input to all tissues and cells and organs of the body. And so as we kind of move back over to that right hand side of the slide, we see all kinds of things that can take place. Not only can we have pain or dysfunction as a result of a misalignment, but now we can start seeing how it changes the nerve message that goes to other organs of the body. And so organs start to dysfunction if the message that's getting to it is incorrect. So a lot of people will have problems with their bowel or problems with their stomach. And it's very, very common that I've seen in my chiropractic practice over the years that when people come in with those symptoms, we look for areas of the spine, particularly the ones that are associated with those nerves that go to those organs and are maybe sending the wrong message there. As we palpate and find those areas of misalignment or non-movement in the spine, we help put that normal movement and motion back in, allowing the nervous system to pick up on that, the brain to pick up on that, to start the healing process, to now start sending the right messages, the right electrical responses to those tissues, cells, and organs, which will then allow the body to heal and allow the body to get back to its normal function. So very, very common. We see people in our office with misalignments of the spine that are silent from the standpoint that it's not causing them, a lot of lower back pain, muscle tension, or headaches or neck pain and things like that, but they're actually causing organ dysfunction or symptoms in the corresponding organs. So by adjusting that, by finding those areas of misalignment, by very specific adjustments, we can allow those nerves to start functioning again. We allow that brain to start rebooting. It's just like turning your computer off and on. It reboots and starts sending out the right messages so the body can start to heal on its own and without the use of drugs and surgery. So very, very wonderful. Power of adjustment is huge. It turns that nervous system back on to full potential. And as a result, it improves and enhances our immune response. As a matter of fact, we find that there are studies that support that regular chiropractic care, keeping the body moving, keeping the nervous system functioning at high levels, will actually enhance our immune response by 250 to 400%. So that is just fantastic. We want to make sure that you're living life to your fullest potential. We want to make sure that the nervous system is functioning at the highest level. So that's why we will suggest, periodic wellness care, just a periodic check to make sure that that nervous system is functioning at high levels. So let's kind of go back in time. As we've been talking here lately in the office about cold and flu season, we got to go back and see, what kind of role has chiropractic played in non musculoskeletal treatment of the body. So musculoskeletal is probably 90% of my patients still do come in this day with a complaint, a back, neck, a musculoskeletal problem. But back in the day, 100 years ago, chiropractors treated, and we still do today, but they were treating so many other conditions that you may not associate with, what a chiropractor treats today. So when we look at how chiropractic affects the nervous system, let's go back to the year 1918, and there was a flu pandemic throughout the world. Influenza, not a tummy ache. It was a real virus, the upper respiratory virus. And this upper respiratory virus was a pandemic. It was all over the earth. As a matter of fact, it was estimated that there was over 30 million deaths attributed to the flu pandemic of 1918. Now, of course, we find that organized chiropractic was founded in Davenport, Iowa in 1895. So we go back to the Palmer archives at Palmer College of Chiropractic. And back in Davenport, Iowa in 1918, we find that there was some relatively good stats taken during this time. And when we look at that time, there was 50 MDs in the Davenport area that treated approximately 5,000 cases of the flu with drugs and medical interventions. And of that 5,000 patients who had the flu that were treated medically, there was an estimated 274 deaths. Now, we look on the other side and we see that at the time in and around the area, there was 150 chiropractors and chiropractic students, and they treated approximately 1,600 cases of the flu. Again, chiropractors treating non-musculoskeletal conditions, chiropractors treating the nervous system, particularly the spine, the nerve roots, the spinal cord, and how it influences the brain. And here's the neat part of this, that when it was all said and done, of those 150 chiropractors and students treating that 1,635 group of patients with the flu, there was only one recorded death. That's amazing. So let's get down to the nuts and bolts here. In medical methods, back then during the flu pandemic of 1918, there was 925 deaths per 10,000 flu cases, compared to those treated with chiropractic, where there was only 25 deaths per 10,000 flu cases. That's just amazing. And when you look back at how chiropractic developed over the years, truly this flu pandemic of 1918 really put chiropractic in the forefront of understanding what it was that the body needs in helping it from a natural standpoint. So again, flu pandemic put chiropractic on the map and helped to get more states licensed, and it was just a fantastic rollout of chiropractic. So, you hear a lot of chiropractors that'll talk about this, and I do every day in my practice, that, chiropractic was never about back or neck pain. Absolutely not. It was really more about increasing that human potential by removing that interference of the nervous system and to correct those spinal misalignments that we call in chiropractic vertebral subluxations. So again, great chiropractic is so good for treating, the common, slip and sprain, strain, the falls, the accidents, the injuries, the musculoskeletal problems. But wow, when you open it up to the potential that it has upon the nervous system, it's just beyond comprehension. And we have so many research projects that have shown that over the years. So really solidifies chiropractic within the mainstream of healthcare. A lot of people don't realize that we treat babies, and just from my own personal experience, I've treated babies all of my practice, and my youngest infant child was 6 hours old. He was actually my son. So, when you think about why do babies need chiropractic, well, just think about it. They grow and grow and grow in a very confined space, and that uterus grows with them to a degree, but it doesn't allow them to stretch out and move around a lot. So, just the process of growing into an infant child, their head kind of gets scrunched down, and they get into positions that they may be there for some time that can cause nerve irritation. Now this baby decides that it's going to be born, so now it has this muscular kind of cavity squeezing it down the birth canal, and they can't, obviously they aren't fighting back, and now their head kind of butts up against the cervix, and there's a lot of pushing. Those little necks and those little spines get put through a lot during the labor process. Not only does it affect the mom greatly, but it affects the baby. And so, even a natural childbirth, if there's doctors that go ahead and use, forceps or vacuum extractors on these little heads and necks, can really cause a lot of trauma to the underlying structure of the spine and the nervous system. So we really need to check these children periodically to make sure that the function of the nervous system is working, that the structure of the spine is working as well. So even babies need chiropractic too. We just love treating the kids. So, this, going back to that slide about the subluxation, about the misalignment, how it affects the nervous system, it really can't be overstated that the greatest benefits of a chiropractic adjustment can't even be felt. Now, I know when I go in to see my chiropractor, Many times I'll go in with symptoms myself that kind of gets me going, but I know that, I'll go in and get an adjustment when I'm feeling fantastic, absolutely great. And I'll get done with my adjustment, and I didn't think I could feel any better, but I do. So why is that? Well, that's allowing, again, finding those misalignments, those non-movements, those fixations, and getting movement back into the spine, and getting that communication network reestablished, rebooting that computer, that supercomputer known as our brain, just allowing the body to continue to function at high levels. Man, you're just going to feel so much better after that adjustment. So, kind of getting back to our immunity, where does it come from? Well, we know that medically, there's a lot of talk about vaccines. Vaccines have been around for many, many years, and it seems like, over the years, the number of vaccines have increased with young children before they go to school. And, we know that certainly vaccines can provide some immunity to the body, some first-line defense, but really our body's immunity doesn't come from a needle, doesn't come from a vaccine, doesn't come from a pill. It really comes from inside out. So, in summary, really the brain runs the body. We know, if we look at what the function of the brain is, the function of the brain is to coordinate absolutely every pathway in the body, whether it's an electrical pathway, whether it's a hormonal pathway. We know that it coordinates all that. And the only way that it does is the only way that it can actually coordinate everything is that we give it what it needs. And that means we don't want any roadblocks to those messages going back and forth from our body to the brain. So, in chiropractic, then we look towards that. We look towards that nervous system, and that nervous system is housed in that spine. And anytime we get misalignment or non-movement, we're affecting that central nervous system, that communication network, back to the brain and back to the body. So any dysfunction of the spine, again, in chiropractic we call that a subluxation, will result in brain consequences. And again, if the brain is not coordinating all the immune responses, all the hormonal responses, we can interfere with our immune response as well. So, just to kind of go back and touch on some of the research, chiropractic adjustments improve immunity by improving the brain-to-body connection and communication. Again, if you think of it as, a network of roads, and, you've had a flood or something happens and the road goes out, you're not going to be able to get to your destination. So the chiropractic adjustment looks at that road network, looks at that map, finds those areas of interference, and adjusts them to allow the body to respond in a very natural way, to reboot the body and to reboot all those systems and pathways that it needs to affect a change in the body, to improve the immune system, and to have a healthier body in general. And we have a couple of articles here that talk about, like the first one, the Journal of Osteopathic Association, March 2011, talked about manipulation in the boosting immunoglobulins. So here it is, a manipulation. We find that increases immunoglobulin A by 139%. Another article here talks about the relationship between, vertebral misalignments or deformities and allergic diseases. And we find that, 98% of asthma and allergy sufferers actually had mid-back misalignments. So again, we see that in our practice every day. We test for that. We check full spine every visit that you come in. We check. That's why we palpate and feel down the spine. We're not only looking for areas of tenderness or discomfort, but we're also checking for areas of true misalignment or non-movement as well. And that's where we'll be able to treat and affect that nervous system, even from a standpoint that it actually had no symptoms or it was silent to you. So here are the top 7 proven ways to improve your immunity this season. So right here, we're in the middle of cold and flu season. Number 1, make sure you're getting your spine and your nervous system checked and adjusted by a chiropractor on a regular basis. What does that mean? It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Some folks, will have on some kind of a wellness program that, they're coming in, once a month. And there's a lot of people that benefit from coming in once a month. I personally get an adjustment at least on bare minimum of once a month. Other people that are, I always call them kind of seasonal folks, summer, spring, winter, and fall, they're always doing something different physically. We'll see those people 4 times a year. We want to make sure that you're on some kind of a regular wellness schedule, just like you would go see your dentist twice a year, or maybe you go in for a physical once a year, something that's on a preventive basis rather than always coming in when you're symptomatic and you can't move. Next thing I would recommend is that you're making sure that you're drinking plenty of water. So the new formula is you want to drink half of your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 200 pounds, we're going to divide that by 2. We want you to be drinking about 100 ounces of water per day. That, again, the bigger the body, the more water you're going to need to flush out the tissues and get those toxins out of the body. So I want to make sure you're drinking plenty of water during cold and flu season. And also that's going to hydrate your skin. So, during the winter months when things become dry, we get little, cracks and crevices around, the nostrils, around the lips. Those are just great places for little viruses and things to just get in there and start creating a lot of havoc, creating a lot of immune system problems, creating a lot of viruses and problems, so your body has to kick in and fix that. So we want to make sure you're drinking plenty of water, keeping everything supple and hydrated. Next thing, we always want to increase our vitamin D intake during cold and flu season. That's generally about a 4-month period of time. And vitamin D3 is huge when it comes to immune system response. Not only does it help, obviously, we've always heard that, vitamin D, works on creating strong bones by pulling the calcium out of the blood and transporting it into the bones. But man, we find there's so many studies nowadays that support the vitamin D is helping the immune system. So during these 4 months of cold and flu season, I always recommend a minimum of 5,000 international units a day. We find that 80% of Americans are vitamin D deficient, and especially during the winter months when the sun isn't out very often. We're clothed from head to toe, and we're just not getting that 10 to 15 minutes of direct sunlight on our skin. And it's that direct sunlight, not behind a window, not with sunscreen on, because sunscreen will not allow this process to take place, but direct sunlight on our skin that actually converts the cholesterol, the underlying cholesterol in our skin, to actually be converted into vitamin D3. So during the winter months, man, we just don't get enough sun. We're not out into it enough to create the necessary vitamin D. So we always recommend during the 4-month period of time in that cold and flu season to be on at least 5,000 units per day. Another thing that we always recommend in our office is to make sure that you're getting enough omega-3 fatty acids. So fish oil. Fish oil is a great thing. Sometimes people have a hard time, digesting it, or it kind of comes up on them. I always recommend, if you're going to be taking fish oil, take it at night, while you're sleeping. And also, another great tip that we'll recommend for people is keep your fish oil in the freezer. So when you take it at night before you go to bed, it's frozen, and while you sleep, it will, thaw out and will dissolve, and you'll get all the benefits of it, and that won't cause a lot of people to have any kind of upset stomach or even that fish burps. So great idea to keep that omega-3 fatty acids increased. Also helps reduce inflammation. So that's a great benefit of omega-3 fatty acids. Number 5, get enough rest. Make sure you're getting to bed early. This time of the year, cold and flu season, we're just generally a little bit more stressed. It's cold outside, so make sure you're getting proper and adequate rest when you can. Number 6, we want to make sure we're limiting our grains and our sugars. So sugars and carbohydrates, they not only depress our immune system, but they also create inflammation in the body. So we want to make sure we're limiting our intake of grains and sugars. And make sure you're moving your body regularly. So again, movement causes the brain communication cycle to work at much higher levels. So discourage you to be a couch potato, particularly at this time of year. It's very easy to do. Get yourself up and moving. Get yourself up walking on the treadmill if it's too cold to go outside. If it's decent, go out, take a walk around the block, take your dog for a walk, go, join a gym. All good things to keep your body moving on a regular basis. So that kind of includes our talk today on our immune system, where it comes from. It's just a fantastic to be, in chiropractic today to help everybody, not only with their musculoskeletal complaints, but to educate them to understanding the true value and mission of our nervous system, and how chiropractic can play a pivotal role in not only the health of your immune system, but the overall health of your body. So until next time, good day to you and good health.